kapely, které jsou dneska na pódiu, a to je Nebeská muzika z Těrchovej, Slovenska. My jsme cymbalová muzika Šmitec z Brna. Dobré odpoledne. A když jsme se v zákulisí domlouvali, jak tematicky obohatit toto odpoledne, předtím, než vystoupí prezidenti, tak jsme se dohodli, že zkusíme nějakou společnou, jestli ta dohoda platí.
Ano, platí.
Výborně. Tak pokusíme se být tematičtí a na úvod zkusíme zahrát jednu od nás. A bude to písnička, kterou měl rád a nechával si zahrát pan prezident Masaryk, tak zkusíme dohromady, jestli nám to půjde. Karta se zkusí obrátit, teďka my se přizpůsobíme a zazní písnička Na Královej holi.
Na Královej holi stojí strom zelený. Na Královej holi stojí strom zelený. Vrch má nakloněný, vrch má
vážená paní prezidentko.
Presidents, Mayor, Mr. Governor, councillors, members of the Brno Council, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Petr and I would like to welcome you to the opening of the 8th year of the festival meeting in Brno. My name is Veronika Sislova and I'm happy that you are here. We have 8 festival days ahead of us. Welcome. We have been involved with stories of specific places, specific people. Some of them are generally known, some of them are found by us, but some of them appear without our contribution, and very often they get connected with some connections. But we are here mainly because of the story of Czechoslovakia. Its important part has taken place here between Tugendhat and Levber. I mean the year 1992 of the meeting between Václav Klaus and Josef Mečiar, at the end of which the dissolution of Czechoslovakia was approved. That's why this meeting's motto is "Do we belong together?" This garden is also connected with many stories which reflect the history. This house shows us the prosperity of industrial Brno at the beginning of the 19th and 20th century. It was the building of the Tugendhat villa and the atmosphere of newly established Czechoslovakia. We like recalling the festival during the mayor's Petr when we organized the post-war meeting of Tugendhat and Levber's families. 117 of them have come from 4 continents, and we are very happy to be able to welcome Daniela Hammer Tugendhat, her husband Ivo Hammer, their son Lukas, and Daniel Levber. Daniela, Iva, Lukas, and Daniel. We are very much honored to be here at this place, which is so important for your families. We are very glad that you are willing to write stories of this place despite the difficult times in the past. One of the other stories of Levber family brings us to Schindler factory in Brněnec, where Oskar Schindler, as at the end of the war, for any reasons, rescued 1,200 women and men of Jewish origin, because before Nazis came, this villa belonged to Levber. We would like to welcome the Bau families, who are one of the most famous, the so-called Schindler's Jews. Welcome to Brno. We would also like to thank our partners and supporters. In terms of the organization, material and finances, we were helped by the general partner Eco Investment, Ostelcentrum Brno, the Museum of the City of Brno, and Museum of the Brněnsko region. Thank you very much. Nevertheless, without the financial support of Brno and South Moravian region, the Meeting Brno festival could not exist. I would like to welcome and invite Mayor of the Brno city, Markéta Vaňková, and Jiří Grolich, who is the governor of the South Moravian region. I'd like to welcome them to the stage. I would like to ask the mayor for a few words. Presidents, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very much honored to welcome you here to the garden of the gardens of the Tugendhat Levber villas. We managed after many years to connect these 2 gardens. The Tugendhat villa is at the moment the owner of is owned by the city of Brno, and as we all know, the fate of this villa has never been easy. And we still have things to think about if we look at the Tugendhat villa. For this reason, I am so glad that the family members of Tugendhat and Löfberg family have come here, because it documents and it proves the fact that despite the hardship of these families and the villas, that we are able to build our relationships together, although they were interrupted. And I'd like to thank the organizers of the Meeting Brno festival, because I assume it was their main motivation when they decided to organize the festival of this type. The relationships between the Czech Republic and Slovakia is the main topic of this meeting, but we will not forget the Czech, Jewish and German line either, because this is also very important for Brno. Brno has always been a metropolitan city, and at this time, which is not easy at all, when we meet here the people who come here from other parts of the world and they are of different nations. So I also think that Brno should be able to welcome such people, help them, so that here in Brno we can all live safely and happily, regardless of our nation, race or religion. Thank you for coming here. Thank you, organizers, and enjoy the Meeting Brno festival. Mr. Governor, can I ask you for a few words? Presidents, it would never come to my mind that I would be starting my speech ahead of so many people and addressing two presidents who I'm really happy to welcome to South Moravia. Welcome here. Even the fact that you have managed to organize this is thanks to the people of Meeting Brno organization, who have proven by their activities that we are able to overcome heavy topics and to add other motives which we are going to talk about today. It's been mentioned that in the Tugendhat Villa and in these gardens a lot of important events happened, but our coalition agreement was concluded in the Tugendhat Villa, and it's still okay. So hopefully it will remain this way. And I would like to wish Brno and the region to have many events which will help us overcome difficult topics. I wish you enjoy your day. Thank you very much for your support. Today's discussion will be moderated by David Macek, who is our colleague. As for Martina Viktorie Kopecka, who was supposed to be the second moderator, unfortunately she's not going to come because of her illness. She has written to us, dear friends, when I was praying for the success of this meeting, I didn't know that I wouldn't be able to be here. Both these people make our world better, and because they connect, they inspire, they give us hope, and I wish both presidents to be healthy and happy. I appreciate their efforts they put in their mission. With respect, Martina Viktorie Kopecka. Ladies and gentlemen, now I would like to invite Zuzana Čaputová, President of the Slovak Republic, and Petr Pavel, President of the Czech Republic. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I believe you are now heated by your applause. We know that President Čaputová celebrated her important anniversary, important birthday, and we were thinking about how to do it so that 1,700 people can congratulate. And we thought we are in Moravia, and when it's somebody's birthday, so we always sing Živio. So this is in celebration of Mrs. President's birthday.
Thank you very much for cooperation. It was a very nice beginning. I was thinking about how to open the discussion, and I realized, and there are some colleagues, my colleagues from the National Pedagogical Institute, I realized that there is a sentence Mrs. Čaputová said in September 2021, and the sentence is the only thing we need is humanity. So what I find special for both of the presidents in our countries is that they stay human beings in spite of all the protocols and responsibility they have to bear. So we thank to you, Mrs. President, and now I would like to ask you to say it again, not to the man in white who was welcomed by Václav Havel by the words, "I don't know if I know what a miracle is." And I think this is also a good theme for today, the miracles we meet. So can you read your sentence, please, once more? Good afternoon to everyone. Many greetings to all of you, and thank you very much for congratulating me. I would have never dreamed to celebrate my birthday in such a place and on such an occasion. And my sentence, it was in my presidential garden. The world is facing crisis, and yet the only way to manage them is through cooperation. The only thing we need is humanity and awareness when we look at anyone that you are me and I'm you, that we are one. So let us have the courage to be human. We depend on living together, and without understanding and mutual understanding, we can't do it. Thank you very much. It was a dream of mine come true. And I believe not only me. Humanity is one of the words when all of us kind of feel what it means, but how to come closer, how to understand it better. We are meeting better, so meeting together and an encounter. And a way to humanity, for me personally, is to know which encounters were very important for our lives, that are a resource for us to go further. And I would like to tell my guests, I almost said friends. So, dear guests, I would like to ask you which encounters were important for you in your lives. that you use in your life as a resource that kind of formed your life? Thank you very much. And thank you also for the topics you have chosen, because I am sure that humanity is the key characteristic. Well, I've got a 50-year-long story, so it's difficult to name someone and leave the others out. But when I look back, the key encounters in my youth were to meet people who saw bigger potential in me than myself in myself. And then people who invited me to cooperate, who inspired me, well, humanity. So people who were human in their everyday acts. Of course, I can name the Pope Francis. It was a very special encounter, and even the discussion we had. But there are also some people who you don't see, who are kind of ordinary but extraordinary in the ways they live. Maybe a nurse helping people to leave this world in their homes. Very human and helpful personality. I can remember a story of a man who is over 90 nowadays. I took part in a one-week pilgrimage in the footsteps of families who were living in mountains to avoid the war events, and I had an occasion to talk to him. He's living in Israel nowadays, but there are also other people with whom I cooperate. Big professionals, very nice people. So I take it as a gift. Also my family, my children, and people who I know and I don't know personally, but they help me to understand the world and to understand myself. Thank you very much. Well, I will not be able to say it in such a nice words as President did. Well, my parents were those one who taught me to be decent and to be human. They always stressed that that's the highest goal I can aim for. And no matter where we lived, how we were educated, you always can stay a decent human being, to live according to the values you have and to try change things at least in your neighborhood. I tried the same with my children. People keep asking me which schools, which countries am I going to send my children to? And I always answered, well, that's a second important question for me, because the most important question for me is to have them decent people, good people. I've been working in military for my whole life, and I faced many situations and met people in situations that most of us don't want to be in at all. To name only a few of them, those who influenced me mostly after November '89, there were people who could have been really feeling bitter after the years they lived through, and still they were able to stay above, to take people not according to a box, but so maybe Mr. Procházka, Mr. Dobrovský, and many others who were able to discuss, to talk to me in a very different way than those who, seeing me, saw only red color. I was also able to go west from our border in the beginning of 1990. I was in Washington, D.C. in the United States. I was able to study there in the American Intelligence Service, and I kind of expected their being disrespectful, withdrawn towards us, as we used to be enemies, but they were open, they were sharing, they were trying to see the good in us, not the bad. And then when I went further doing my work, my service, I was meeting people all over the world, and even in countries that are not really friends countries. I met people, always people who were able to listen to me, to try to find the common topics, common interests, and as Mrs. President said in the beginning, I am you, you are me.
So regardless of where we live, so we eventually have common interests because we all want to live in a safe environment with our families. We want to have good conditions for our children and grandchildren. And this is what we all agree on, and this is what we can build on. I am an optimistic by nature, and I believe that people will eventually find the way to meet each other. And a great example is, for example, Mrs. President here, because when we met for the first time, I had heard a lot about her and read about her and had known. And I must say that she is the person to behave better and in a more decent way, because if somebody is so decent and empathic to you, so you can't treat him or her differently. Mrs. President, if we talk about this humanity context, there is a decision which is 2-day-old decision. I believe that nobody has asked you about it. Definitely, yes. It is a decision which was not easy to be born. It was a hard process for me. It was probably the hardest decision that I had to make in my life. What I can say about it was that it was a very open process of searching. On the one hand, I realized the complexity of the situation that Slovakia is in and all challenges it faces. At the same time, I'm a person who serves public interest. It is my nature. And I have not always chosen the best, the easiest pathways in my life. Despite this, I had come to the conclusion which is already known today. What I can say about it is that whatever can be said about the privacy and safety of my close people to me, I considered my strength, my possibility, my potential to do such a difficult and such a responsible mandate. And after thorough consideration, I came to the conclusion that it wouldn't be right to play this role again, and I thought that somebody with more strength to lead Slovakia would be better, because I have had 4 years behind me, and there have been four governments during the time, and in the 5th year of my mandate I will have to appoint the 5th government, and there are some people who are not so inspired by decency, and these are all contexts in which I have to make the right decision. Maybe it is quite abstract, but maybe the experience that I have acquired is that what is important for a responsible function and responsible mandate is the inner alignment with your inner being, because this is what you then build on in the critical moments. So I hope this decision will be accepted with trust, although I can't be concrete, but I will fully complete and accomplish my office until the end. And in this position, you must be a leader. You mustn't be a follower, and I don't want to be a follower. It will be the last question for Mr. President. What does this decision mean for you? From the human point of view, I'm sorry for this, because, as I have said, it is very easy for me to cooperate with Mrs. President. There are not so many people you cooperate with so easily, and if it is the president of the neighboring country, so it is a great opportunity. But I do understand the reasons, and I do respect them. I have never doubted that Mrs. President covered her office with 100% involvement, and it requires a lot of energy. It is no surprise for me how the situation in Slovakia is developing. I follow it from a close distance. I believe it was not an easy decision for her, but I fully respect it. I consider the reasons as valid, and I assume that Slovakia is not depending on one person only. It would definitely not be good, but I believe that the Slovak people will choose the successor with whom the relationship with our country would continue in the same spirit as so far. At the end, I will want to talk about how you want to work during this last common year. But first of all, I'd like to repeat the words of the President, of Mr. President. The day after your election, you had a speech on the Czech television, and you mentioned, for example, that you want to improve the mood among people, to increase self-esteem and national pride, to reinforce the hope that it makes sense to strive for change, to release initiative and untapped potential, to advocate for what is right, to emphasize the importance of sacrifice for society, and to give impetus to start processes in time that we do not want to waste. It was said on the 8th of January in the evening, but last week you reminded us of some of these words. You spoke about the importance of the fact that if we manage manage to change our perception of ourselves and our approach to reality. And you've also spoken about the fact that you should be connecting the islands of positive deviation, which is probably from the Czech descent, by which you are more similar to Václav Havel rather than to any other of your predecessors. If I look at all these things, in what way do you make the decisions in your function? What is your main political credo? Or maybe there are more points, and what is the most important for you? What is then transpired into the choice of your priorities? And which regions will you visit first, and which regions will you visit later? When you mentioned my speech after 100 days in my office, so some people said that I hadn't said anything except for thanking our colleagues. In any way, it reflects the expectation that President should give clear goals, expectations and tasks regarding the fact how many percent he will decrease the inflation, or how much the standard of living will be increased. And I have never pretended
that I'm going to do anything like that. Even if President is not an executive power in our system, still he or she has enormous possibilities, and the biggest possibility is to influence public opinion in the sense of values, of what is good, to bring people together and come to agreement, at least in the topics where agreement is possible. And this is my biggest task. I decided to bring back into our lives the belief we are not worse than those who we see to, because our country does have all the qualities needed to be in the highest places of the index of satisfaction, where we fall behind many countries, even if we don't have to. Also to help us see ourselves a little bit, not only to be more self-critic, but also to have higher self-esteem. It's typical for us to be angry, to say this is not going to happen, and what we need to change is our inner attitude. And if we can do that, to see things in a more positive way, in a more self-value, then you don't need hundreds of billions of investments or changing many laws, and still many things can go easier, better. Maybe it's a little bit naive, a little bit abstract, but I see it as a very concrete task. Even if many people say this is naivety, this is not going to happen. Well, maybe, but it does have sense to try to do that. And that's what I'm going to do. I would like to add the question that Mrs. President, you have a presidential podcast, and well, she has got a podcast. So I heard there. Well, we all know. You said you prefer observing to judging. Yeah, that's right. Well, I should add some more parts to my podcast, some more sessions. But the priorities, according to your question, we have only limited powers. Both presidents of Czech and Slovak, it's similar. So how can you how can you choose the priorities? And of course, they are based on your previous career. So for me, it's the climate crisis, also the questions of minorities, of social rights, and I always wanted to move them a little bit to a better position. It's of course difficult. We are not able to create laws, we can block them as presidents, but still with pressure you can do something, and our parliament accepted one of them. So it's the systematic changes, but also I hold some projects for very important. We educate a group of young people every year as the climate leaders. We want to be the first office with a neutral carbon tracks, and in cooperation with other governments we were trying to do something for our climate, to use other fuels. We were quite successful in our economical diplomacy, to export our business, to bring businesses to Slovakia. I can be proud of what we did. Maybe we are not so successful in communicating these things, but maybe what is even more important for me, to be a point in the society, a place where situation calms down, where things go practical, where someone who connects and not divides situations and people. In Slovakia, it's not so much about polarization, it's more fragmentation. But still, we have managed to connect all the different opinions to a certain extent. I believe communication is a very strong tool. It's the bridge between our mental world and the steps we do and the public, and I think it's very underestimated. Maybe the people who vote are underestimated, because it's important what I say to people, at least to those people who are open and who listen. And my trying to connect people, to connect society is a part of that. And the subjects who do not respect human rights should be our enemies, are threats to us. So we should hold together, even if our opinions are sometimes different. And my personal experience with meeting with differences, so if you have a will to discuss the values, then it's even possible to go further and to come to some conclusions. Well, you said that versatility can be enriching. So how do you perceive people who are different in opinions or maybe in other ways? So how do you manage to perceive them as enrichment and not as a threat? Because I believe this is our Middle European attitude.
Nicméně byl to jeden z našich motivů.
It was one of our reasons why we started this Meeting Brno festival. So how do you work with differences? How do you do it that you don't perceive a different person not as a threat but as a gift or an enrichment? Well, we have discussed this topic a few moments ago in the villa, and I remembered one Dalai Lama saying, when you speak, you usually say what you know. When you listen, you can learn something new. And even if I didn't know this sentence before, this is something I was trying to. I have always liked to learn new things. I have always liked to travel as much as I was able to. Well, I was a soldier, so I was able to travel only to the Varsovian Pact countries, and only when they invited me. And it's important for me to see people abroad, how they live, how they perceive the world, the situations in their lives, and that helped me to see that we have so many ways, and all the ways are based on some rational opinions. I have learned languages since my childhood, because languages are the windows into the world. And thanks to that, I got the occasion to travel abroad and to study abroad. So my first study abroad.
My first studies abroad were in the when it was in the environment where we were 80 people out of 40 countries of the world, and if you shared 1 year of quite demanding studies, and in my case also the training and also free time. So we've had an opportunity to speak about many things which, if we don't know them, they sometimes cause a fear to us. And my children have never had it, they had it from the childhood, and they never had any bias and any prejudice, for example, to Islam, because they had got to know known a lot of Islamic children, so they perceived them, and they never made any differences between people with different color of skin, because they grew up in this environment and they didn't consider it as anything unusual. And thanks to them, I realized many times that it was such a pity that we are just closing ourselves in our country, and we think that we see what's happening around in the rest of the world, but I think we should be able to perceive more, to get to know more, because a lot of people would seem much simpler to us, because we would see that there are not many differences, that the differences are things in which we will find a lot in common. I agree with the basis of this question that difference can be enrichment, but it must be when there is a willingness to dialogue, that is sharing and willingness to listen to each other and to perceive different opinions, different views. It is enriching a priori, because it is a view from a different point of view, and it is coming from a different life story. During the COVID break, when there was a contact with people was limited, so we were trying to meet and on other platforms. It was after, and we spoke about different topics to avoid closing into the mental bubble. But the assumption of this is the willingness to perceive each other. It is important for me because the result of the discussion can be what we said at the beginning, which is that we have differences, but it is very enriching because we understand the roots which the differences grow from, and this is very enriching for me and very interesting for me. Maybe one image which shows up if we speak about differences. We have a group of friends where we meet and speak about different philosophical and spiritual topics, and the assumption is the differences and the authenticity, which means that we are talking about our experience, not about what we have read somewhere. And it is very enriching because perceiving the speaking, talking from different points of view and from different experiences, it brings us to a simplifying question that if I look at it, something looks like a triangle. If I speak about something, somebody else may speak about the circle, and in the end you realize that you both can be right, because there is a cone what we are describing, and we only discovered a different views of the same object. So these results can be compatible, and we are helped to understand the multiple dimensions of the phenomenon that we are observing. Now there will be a bridge to the final topic. I would be interested in what can you see the unused or untapped potential of your nation, and what you find as inspiring from the other nation, what you would like to follow, what the neighboring country can be inspiration for you. We'll leave you some time for thinking. These two answers may be similar and complementing each other. As I am perceiving the people in Slovakia, and the 4-year experience is unique because probably in the time unit I met probably most people in my life, and in this respect it is a beautiful experience. If I go to different parts of Slovakia, I love people of Slovakia. They are really skilled and innovative and smart, and sometimes they go abroad and they are not motivated to come back. But if we look at the potential of our people in terms of their innovativeness and inspiration, and we are really worldly in this case, and I think in this case the potential is excellent, and where I think that the potential is untapped and unused is that there are a lot of fragmentations and breakdowns in different lines, and maybe it is because we need to trust each other more. We have to trust each other in human relationships, because some statistics in Slovakia show that we don't trust each other enough as people who live at the same time at the same place. So if we trust each other, the potential will be able to be used to a greater extent. And in terms of the second question, so what is inspiring? If I look at the Czech Republic, it is only a subjective opinion, but I will say that I have a feeling that you inspire us because the self-confidence level is greater. And I would say it is like a golden Czech hands. So this is a slogan which is widely used, and it could be also maybe your broader experience with the nationality, because our experience in this respect is much longer. We have always been part of a greater whole, greater country, and in that case we need to become and learn to be more responsible for ourselves, and that's another thing, and I do love Czech humor, so this is the next thing that I find as inspiring. We are probably going to agree with Mrs. President. I also think that the greatest potential is in people, and I would also like to say that we have quite unique conditions that other countries don't have. For example, safety. And this is objectively, we are objectively one of the safest countries. We are the country which so far has not have to handle any natural disasters. Hopefully it will stay this way. Migration is not affecting us so much, at least because we are not a target country for all those migrants who come from different cultures, from different religions, as it is in other countries, and that's why our country is still quite homogeneous. On the one hand, it is a great advantage. We also have an advantage because we are a country which is an industrial country. It's got a very dense road networks. We have a lot of smart people who are able to find their place in the world, and for these reasons, I'm very sorry when we are wasting our chances, because if I can compare it to many countries, I have been lucky that I visited more than 80 countries, and many of them I have got to know better.
I can say that many of the countries I have visited are in a worse state of art than we are, and still they are feeling more happy, and they have a bigger trust in themselves. So this is something we can learn. And to mention at least one thing I find as an inspiration in our neighboring country, our brothers, the Slovaks. Well, I do not agree with Mrs. President fully. I don't think they don't have much pride. I believe that Slovaks, because they don't have a long time experience with a statehood, they are much more proud of it. That's what I don't say in Czech. We are not so proud about Czech country. We can be proud in the cases like Nagano, like winning the contest, but I would like to try to let know that there are many little Czech Naganos. It's not Olympic Games, but there are successful businesses, successful medical doctors, successful artists, and there are many of them we can be proud of, and let's take a little bit glitters from their success and see our country in a better way, to be proud and to protect it whenever it is needed. So our nations are close to one another. It's obvious We are brothers. It was possible to see even this year Mrs. President visited Mr. President the moment he was elected. We know that you were prepared to go and see Prague a little bit more. And we can say that there are sights to see also in Brno. In April, I heard something extraordinary from Vatican in the church of Santa Maria Maggiore. There was a service common for Czechs and Slovaks to thank for the peaceful division of the states. The Czech and Slovak republics, formerly united in Czechoslovakia, separated peacefully on the 1st of January 1993, thus giving the world an eloquent lesson on how to deal with the fundamental demands for self-determination and independence in mutual respect, peace and genuine brotherhood. And today, in the light of conflicts such as the war in Ukraine unleashed by Russia, the experience of these two nations 30 years ago remains a source of inspiration and a model for other countries to resolve their differences peacefully through dialogue and mutual respect. So we can see that we find this outer respect. And the outer authority points out something which we find as obvious. We are brothers, so why to split in a bad way? Well, it's not true always. See the Serbians and the Croatians. And now when we see what Russia is able to do in Ukraine, so let's take the final question. In what way would you like to work with the potential of our people in the months that are still ahead in your office? What you wanted to show in your common trip to Kiev, and there was some misunderstanding. Kyiv, which is a small town in South Moravia. So, what was the signal you wanted to send out? So, who is going to speak first? Well, I would like to comment a little bit about the friendship. You know, there's a nice comparison. We were in the garden of the Tugendhat villa, where we met in the place of the tree under which our heads agreed on this velvet split, and now we met in a velvet meeting and agreed on going a further velvet path together. Well, what we wanted to show going together to Ukraine, we wanted to show that our attitude to Ukraine is the same both for Czech and Slovak republics. It doesn't mean that we accept everything what happens in Ukraine unconditionally, but what is common for both of us are the fundamental things. Ukraine is a sovereign country, and the president and the government were elected in a democratic way, and they were attacked in such an aggressive way by a neighbor who should be the garant of the democratic development, and now it attacks the principles themselves. So if we want to live in a world where we feel safe, we need to do something for our rules to be valid also for those, both for those who are in the activity directly, but also for us who are indirectly involved. So we have to support them until they reach their sovereignty and independence again. Well, I can just sign what was said. We were in Ukraine, in Iceland, and now we're going to go to Vilnius. It's also a responsible ecological way of doing things. But going back to the Ukraine question, when we were putting the flowers to the square where the Czech and Slovak legions formed, and it was quite a special moment to stay there with the flowers as a Slovak president, having the Czech president next to me. And there were two presidents putting flowers there, and I could see or remember those people who were there in the beginning, and we are still the representatives of those people, and we are together there. So it was a very strong moment for me. So I believe there is the potential when you have the same attitude to important topics and you can communicate it with a common gesture as the heads of two states, the closeness we feel naturally just exists, and that's the way to do it. And coming here, I met people who are living in Brno, and they are Slovaks. Even my partner is half Czech, so we are so intertwined, both countries. We can understand one another's languages. We have the common culture, history. What I said in your day of victory, we do feel what happens in Czech with you. We are part of your joy. When something joyful happens, we feel it as the brothers or sisters. This is this not so much obvious link between us, and it's a good start.
And we don't consider this velvet coming together of the countries. We hope it will be the beginning of the relationships of brothers and sisters. Friends, the time which we have for our meeting is coming to an end. At the end, I would like to say, number one is not planned and not agreed. I'd like to say we will all keep our fingers crossed for your last year, because if you look at the potential of both countries we have, so it does matter. If we look at the situation in Europe, we will keep our fingers crossed for you. And Mrs. President, it's always customary that the president whose term of office is coming to the end, and if Mrs. Čaputová comes to the Czech Republic next June before the end of her office, so there is a platform of Meeting Brno in South Moravia, so if you wish to use it, you are very much welcome. It would be a great time to consider. Thank you for your reaction. And number two, now I would like you to stand up, if you may, and I will invite 4 beautiful ladies here, and let us have a look at the mystery of what's behind us. We have met here in front of the Levber Villa, but we have also met here in front of the Tugendhat Villa. Our organizers have organized it this way, so this beautiful picture of the Tugendhat Villa it works together, but also separated. The author of this painting is Erika Voigt and her friend Martina, and by this we would like to thank you. The author has told us, I have a command that maybe one of your offices in Prague Castle, it would be a good painting to have there. And I would like to thank you for your time that you have gifted to us, and what's more valuable than time in your service. We would like to gift you these paintings. Thank you very much that you came, and you have heard the reaction that you are very much invited to come here again. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the following 10 days, and hopefully you will come to the program, and hopefully next year as well. So hopefully we will come, and everybody who has been here will come. Thank you.
Vážené dámy, vážení pánové, já si dovolím
Ladies and gentlemen, one piece of information for today. It's not coming to an end yet. We'll be happy if you stay here. The bands will be playing, both of them. So please stay here, and we'll be happy if you come to the next events of Meeting Brno festival, which will be taking place in the following 11 days. Please look at our Facebook, look at our websites, and please come. Thank you for your great attention. Thank you for your excellent thinking and applauses, and I wish you a wonderful rest of the day. Goodbye. Have a good day. And one more thing, in row 4, you have probably lost an iPhone. We will leave it with the cameraman. So the owner of the iPhone, please come for it here. Thank you.
konia, popíkala bych sa, ale radšej do postielky poihrala bych sa.
Oceme chlapci zadutkajú, 12 stoliciam žilky zaigrajú. No a keď nad hlavou palošík im blísne, to až hen v Budíne srdce pánom stisne. Hrom bije a my ešte pijeme. Hrom bije a my ešte pijeme. V zámku mám ja, tam frajerku, ja ju dobre znám. V tém oravském zámku mám ja, tam frajerku, ja ju dobre znám.
Dočkaj
Vyše lípky, níže jasenia. Pojďme milá, pojďme do sena.
Čo by ja tam robila, mamka by ma vybila. Níže lípky, níže jasenia. Ja ti dvierka neotvorím, bo si falošný. Perinou ťa nezahrejem, bo si neverný. Inou som ťa videla, perinou ťa prikryla. Ja ti dvierka neotvorím, nech ti je zima. Inou som ťa videla, perinou ťa prikryla. Ja ti dvierka neotvorím, nech ti je zima. Neškodí mi voda spod sokolia, neškodí mi voda spod sokolia. Ani chlapci, kedy do nás chodia, ani chlapci, kedy do nás chodia. Lež mi škodia moje čierne oči, lež mi škodia moje čierne oči. Že nespali se švajkom noci, že nespali se švajkom noci.
Že to si ty spravodlivá dievka, a keď ty máš poetický mlieka, a keď ty máš poetický mlieka.
Čertá si ty spravodlivý chlapec, keď ti behá o polnoci tvoj holatý vrábec, keď ti behá o polnoci tvoj holatý vrábec.